Hello, everyone. I am freezing. I am in an icebox. Hello, Lobsol, Garza, Billy, Jeff, Zako, Leon, Victor, Ink Mama, Ogier, Tainted Innocence, Don. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Silent Hill Symbolism live discussion. I'll come up with a name for it. The recap. This is gonna be a weekly thing where after we have the podcast, we'll have a more relaxed live discussion about it, where folks can ask questions, kind of like the ones we've had in the past. This one's gonna be about the Otherworld and kind of covering a little more detail about it and some extra things. Yes, we are looking at Gandalf's behind right now because he's sitting right in front of the camera. Aren't you, buddy? Yes. Yeah, my house is an icebox, and my room especially, because it's right on the front wall. I don't know, I'm just, it's freezing. Anyway, thanks for joining us. So the Otherworld, we've discussed the Otherworld in at least one video, probably more, but specifically the Celtic overtones of the Otherworld in, I believe, one of the town videos. I decided to do a video about it in more detail because it's something that's so important to the series, and there really are some really interesting connotations to it, to the idea of what, kind of where it came from. Hello, Matt. Thanks for joining us. I'm doing my best to stay warm. I'm doing better now. There are a lot of interesting connections between the Otherworld as it's presented in the game and between the fictional stories from especially Ireland and a lot of other cultures. Ireland tends to be where you hear the stories of the Otherworld that exists in the fog and the mist. There are a lot of stories that have the Otherworld as a place beyond the horizon, associated with the sun, in the sun, on an island beyond the sun. That's where you see stories like Avalon. I believe a lot of Welsh stories have to do with an island beyond the horizon. Places where you'd cross the ocean to get to it. There are also a lot of stories about it being under the sea, that there's this great city underneath the sea, which I found interesting because it kind of ties in really well with a Japanese story, which we talked about a little bit in the episode about how Japan and Ireland have a lot in common, so they have a lot of stories in common, very nature-focused. They're an island, they are a pantheistic tradition, they have a lot of history of war, and so you see a lot of very interesting connections between Irish and Japanese mythology. Japan has a story of a guy who, he falls in love, or she falls in love with him. She's an immortal. She falls in love with him. She's from the ocean or something, and he's got to go. He lost like a fishing rod, I think it was a fishing hook, and he goes down to try and find it and heads to the undersea city of this dude and ends up hanging out there and marrying the guy, girl, marrying the lady, but he makes some kind of mistake, or he has to return his brother's fishhook, that's what it is. And so he has to return, and the lady ends up being departed from him for a little while. I believe she eventually returns to him, but it's just one of many stories that kind of has some ties to some Irish stories about female immortals and male humans falling in love and going to this other country and under the sea or over the sky or in the mist. Do I think Walter's Otherworld is different from Alessa's? I do. I think it's interesting that Walter is the only other character we've seen who can really kind of control and influence it in the same way that Alessa can. It's in some ways, I think, out of his control because we see things in the Otherworld that he wouldn't necessarily want us to see, but it is still his land, and it is his influence in that world that kind of keeps us, running around in circles. We'll have to explore in more detail his other worlds at some point and some of the connections, how his differ. Let's see. There's an island near Ireland called Brazil. There are a lot of islands near Ireland, and there's a lot of stories about mystical islands. There's one that you can only see every 7 years. There was a mention in one of the readings I read where if you see this island, then in the next 7 years when it returns again, you will never see it because you'll be gone. Like, kind of saying that by the time it comes back around, the fairies will have taken you. There's a lot of stories about islands. Ireland doesn't tend to see them as the Fae realm, but there are, like, Fae islands. Whereas Wales and Cornwall and some other places tend to have ideas that the Fae live on islands off in the distance. Possibly also because Ireland was that way, and so they kind of saw that, you know, they saw people coming and going that way, and so we're like, oh, maybe they're over there, you know. Let's see. I did my best this time because I was roasted before for my bad pronunciation of Irish words. They are hard. I tried my best to say them properly this time. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Joe. Walter's first 10 sacrifices were to enable him to do what Alessa could do with the power she was born with. I honestly, I don't know if I've ever put it that way exactly, but I think you're basically right on it. I mean, the way that they're divided and why they're differentiated, if you try to think about why that is, I think it totally makes sense that the first set of sacrifices and his self-sacrifice was to set him up to do what Alessa did. My Tainted Innocence says that she's from they are from Ireland. I apologize. My mom used to always say that fairies would take me away if I misbehaved. That's so fun. I know every culture has its kind of stories, like La Llorona. I'm sure I said that wrong, but that's like a Latin, Mexican, and South American story, I believe, about being taken away. And I wasn't sure, but because I hadn't found anything on it, but it seems interesting. Maybe Celtic cultures have the fairies will take you away. Well, that's fun. Why are magic creatures always taking our children away? Let's see here. We also talked a bit about how the Japanese Shinkai Otherworld. Hello, Gandalf. That's the screen, and that's the cat. Cat. Hey, cat. What you doing? What you doing? Hey. Well, kitties went away, so we'll close that. The Shinkai. I think it's very interesting that they have their own concept of something very similar to what the Celts have, the Otherworld, where the yokai and the kami are all around you, and you can accidentally slip through and end up on the other side. But it's very telling, I think, that they go with the Otherworld as the term. Stop. That was my alarm. And I wonder who it was that made the choice to call it the Otherworld. If it was an American translator trying to come up with something that would give that kind of feeling in English. If it was the Japanese researchers who found this concept and wanted to apply it to the game. I'm really curious, and I wonder who came up with it. But there really is a lot in common with the Japanese traditions and the Celtic ones, and I'm sure, if the ideas were a blend of both or what have you, it's interesting to see them together. The more unique thing I found that I hadn't discussed in the past was the connection to Buddhism, particularly Pure Land Buddhism, which I don't know that this was necessarily something that they purposefully, they saw this and put in there, more than it's a concept that exists in Eastern thought, this idea that you can manifest things through belief and spiritual power, and thus create realms. The Pure Land just seems to resemble what Alessa did the most. But there's also things in Buddhism like mandalas that you manifest by imagining the image and meditating on it. There's a lot of using your own spiritual power to manifest things and beliefs. And the Pure Land is just a fascinating way to look at what Alessa is doing, because I talked a little more in the members episode about how Pure Land manifests, and you have to essentially be beyond the physical. You kind of have to ascend to a certain degree, and Alessa isn't exactly physical anymore. She's not exactly spiritual either, because she is still kind of alive. She's this interesting kind of combination of both, and is beyond them, and in that essence is kind of a Buddha of Silent Hill, sort of. Not, I don't want to say that she's a Buddha, but you know what I'm saying. She's kind of come to this other realm and is manifesting things in an interesting way that I think is interesting to look at through that lens. I really have a lot of fun finding connections between real-world mythology and folklores and stories. I don't think it necessarily means that these creators had a one-to-one, this is what they, you know, were inspired by, but our cultures and our religions influence our way of thinking, and it's, you know, very possible that these ideas in Silent Hill were in part influenced by traditions that the Japanese dev team grew up around and, you know, were taught to believe or just knew existed. There's a theory Alessa happens to tap into the demiurge. I will have to look that up. That might be interesting to talk about. Yes, Bodhisvata is another term in Buddhism, which is kind of a lower Buddha. In short terms, it's a person that's kind of sticking around to help people and try and help them become enlightened, which, honestly, I feel like I could go on a whole Buddha tangent with the way that the game, if you look at it in certain ways, it does kind of redeem people. It does kind of help them find enlightenment. You know, like, they become better people. And I think manifesting a realm where people are kind of reborn and can't die and become better people, like, there's something very Buddhist about that to me. I just think it's very, what is happening? What is happening? Anyway, I think it's very interesting. Hello, folks joining us, like Jamie, I think. Thanks for popping in. If anybody has any questions, please throw them in. I will be answering questions in more researched detail in the next episode, where members are going to be able to send in questions that I'll actually like research and apply, you know, in a Q&A session, a little more of a hard work to. I've sent out the links for that, so if folks can, if members can go check out their member sites, Patreon, what have you, you should be able to find that. Would I consider myself a Buddhist? No, I really don't consider myself much of anything, because I feel like there's so much, I feel like there's truth in everything. I read a quote once that said that all religions are rivers running to the same sea, and that's kind of how I see it. There's many traditions that I feel a lot of kinship to, but that I am so, comparatively to the people that practice these traditions, I am so uneducated that to call myself anything would feel presumptive. I feel a very special connection to Taoism and Buddhism and Judaism. I think Judaism is a beautiful tradition that puts my own faith that I grew up with in a new light, and makes me see it differently, see it in a way that I think is better. I like a lot of things about it better, but I wouldn't call myself anything, really. I'm just kind of a student of the world, I suppose. Let's see. Could James's holes connect with the Otherworld? Well, I definitely think, you know, obviously there are holes in Silent Hill in various places. James comes across them, Henry comes across them. I don't remember exactly when they happen. I'm certain the ones later in the game must happen when he's in the Otherworld and not the Fog World, because I think the prison is just Otherworld. But, yeah, I don't think there's any reason why they would not. Why, hello, Sean. Curious about the siren sound origin, which may or may not happen. I think the kind of traditional idea was that the sound comes from the ambulance that came to get her when there was a fire, or something she would have heard in the hospital, and that's where it comes from. I kind of like that explanation, but there's also just something so primal and upsetting about the sound to me. Like, it makes me tense up. It makes me feel like, oh no, I gotta run. And I'm sure that they were picked for, in part because of that, and it may also be a reference to other horror that's used it before. Yeah, Jamie brings up David Lynch, which there's so much David Lynch in these games, especially the early two. What's happening back there? Ah, you found the Christmas wrapping. Is that what you're doing? Yeah, don't act innocent. I know what you do. You eat paper towels. Are you gonna try and eat the Christmas wrapping, stupid? Oh, my lord. Candy! Hey! I'm shaming you. Stop eating the paper. Siren may also be a reference to the book of Revelations, the trumpets at the end of the world. Possible. What is the... What are you messing with now? What is wrong with you? Stop it. You're being bad. You're being bad, cat. Is there something on the... Oh, there was something on my screen. All right, cat. You're bad, cat. See if we can see good cat. There we go. We can stare at your butt. Bob, you want to turn around so they don't have to stare at your butt? Hello. He turned around and was like, wait, what's that? Oh, shit. This is great. I'm glad y'all folks are enjoying this. It's definitely not as scripted as possibly past live streams have been, but I figured since the research and the script were presented last time, this doesn't have to be scripted. The live streams will go in their own playlist now, including older Silent Hill live streams. I wanted to kind of, like I talked about in one of my videos earlier, I've been experimenting with Silent Hill Symbolism, trying to make it work, trying to find the spark again, because I did not want to do weekly 10-minute scripted video edited videos, because it takes so much time and effort, it drains all my energy, and it makes it so that I have, no energy to do anything else really, and there's other games I want to talk about. And so I think a podcast is the answer. It's a lot faster. I don't have to do twice as much work. I can still research Silent Hill and research other things, and I can still put it on YouTube. And I don't think there's been that much pushback. Really think I only received one comment that was kind of confused. But I think for the most part, people seem to enjoy it. Views are a little down, but it's partially the time of year and the fact that I haven't done Silent Hill Symbolism a lot lately. I think if I get back to doing it weekly, it'll work out, and this will be a good transition point, and I'll be able to talk about other games again. Fatal Frame. Silent Hill Symbolism will be its own podcast. It'll still be on YouTube. It is also on Spotify. Somebody found it through Spotify, so it worked. It's up. And it will continue to go up. There's other websites as well, but I think that's probably the most popular, well-known. It's on Anchor, but that just sends it out to other websites. There are longer episodes. Editing this one helped me realize how I'm going to make them in the future. They won't be the way this one was, because it will be just too difficult, and I kind of messed up with what I wanted to do. But it taught me what I need to do for the future. It'll be, I'm thinking maybe 30 minutes to 45, maybe an hour on the outside, depending on if it's a very big topic. Maybe that week I have a guest who wants to speak with, that would be very fun. Is it on Apple Podcasts? I don't know. I'll have to see. I post it to a website called Anchor, and then Anchor sends it to other websites that are willing to accept it. I got notified Spotify accepted it today, so I know it's there. I'll see if I can get it anywhere else. And I will upload eventually recordings, re-recordings, re-editings of episodes that were videos, because I know folks like to listen to those to go to sleep, and, some of the early ones have really bad audio or had issues. So eventually some of those will go on the podcast stuff too, but that'll all take time, and it'll happen eventually. Think what else was I saying? Longer versions. So the first half will probably be like 10, 15, 20 minutes. I'm thinking 10 to 15 because people tend not to watch. When Silent Hill Symbolism does best when it's like 12 minutes. So that'll be the main juice, and then there will be maybe another 10, 12 minutes that members can hear. That's more stuff that I cut out, extra info, things like that. Q&A session possibly. Maybe some interviews and things that will push it longer. Q&A will push it longer, go on there. But yeah, that way there will be a main episode for folks. But hey, if you like it and you want to hear more, or you just want to support the channel, you can get the longer episodes. Those are posted to Patreon and YouTube in the link of the normal video. So if you go to that video and click on the link, or just go to the members playlist. I'm gonna there's one created for Silent Hill Symbolism now, I believe. Yeah, so for as little as 99 cents a month, you can support the channel and get all those. Bump it up to $3, you get all my books for free. All that jazz. Links in the description. Hello, cat. Did you get tired of sitting in front of camera? Okay, so, now that spiel is over and done with, Joe was talking about Revelations. The second angel sounded, and third was smitten. Third part. Oh, that is interesting. So, he's talking about connecting the siren with the trumpets of Revelation, where when the trumpets are blown, things start to change. The first angel sounded, and then followed hail and fire mingled with blood. Another one blows, and it was like fire was burning, and the sea became blood. It's so like the music and the sound association changes the world around it, and that is very interesting. That it is entirely theoretically plausible that the Revelation music changing the world into a nightmare influenced the idea of, the siren. Thank you guys. A lot of sweet comments in the comments. Thank you. The game developers said it was inspired by David Lynch's Industrial Symphony. In the show, when the world switches from light to dark, sirens sound. Ooh, that's another nice connection. Nice. Oh, those are very interesting. And see, that's why I want to do these, because other people have thoughts and ideas that I don't, because, I don't know everything. But I do have two cats who are being so cute. One is sitting directly behind me. Are you sniffing, camera? Say, what is that? Say, what is that? Mom, what'd you put here? He is gonna... I didn't even have to say it. Oh, I didn't even get to finish saying it, and you knocked it over. This is why you're my good son, Bob. He's in my lap. You can't see him, but I'm surrounded by boys. I was out all morning finishing holiday stuff because Christmas is this week, and then my niece's 13th birthday is next week, so I finally have all that finished. And, because I shop at the Goodwills, got this for 69 cents. I mean, it was 69 cents, so if I'm bad at it, at least it was only 69 cents, so I guess I'm gonna do that at some point. It even says prepare to die on the back, so that's fun. Anyway, let's see. Are you familiar with the D&D setting of Ravensloft? I'm really not. I'm really not familiar with much D&D. I've played a lot more of Pathfinder myself and a few obscure games. But sounds very interesting. There's a lot of associations with mists and horrible other worlds. Not always horrible. The interesting connection in Irish tradition, which I know more of than other Celtic traditions, which is why I keep specifying it. The concept of the Druids and the fact that they were said to be they were like magic priests of the gods who also served kings and such, and in battle they were said to summon mist. Could this possibly just be because Ireland's covered in the stuff? Possibly. But there are a lot of stories of mists coming out of nowhere and sweeping enemies away or covering up, the good guys and saving them, or sweeping people into another world and all that stuff. There's a lot of stories in Ireland of mist and fog being used offensively or defensively. Let's see. If anybody has any other questions, we'll throw those in. I am not going to be streaming again tonight because I am going to be wrapping birthday and Christmas presents, making sure I have all of it finished so that I'm not rushing at the final moment. My niece is getting Just Dance for her birthday 'cause she freaking so active. My brother's getting some not Resident Evil, Xbox games. What else? Got my mom some birdhouses. She likes birds. Yeah. Cookbooks for my sister-in-law. A lot of stuff for my niece because she's 13. 13 and have birthday and Christmas. Every year. I know my parents' pain now because I was born on January 1st, so they were always like, crap, we gotta do birthday and Christmas. When am I gonna stream Mystery of the Druids? I don't know about that. That was my, is it still my icon on Discord? That goofy game, the druid on the front going, I just thought it was so funny. Sky Center, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Be sure to go to the description of the video, click on the link that says support the Muse, and there's a card that has a bunch of links and descriptions of all your members' content. Patreon's very good about sending that to you, so you should be fine. YouTube, not so much, so I created a link. Will I rap while I rap? Oh, you don't want to hear that. No, I will not. Let's see here. Is Maria part of the Mist? Well, I don't know if she's part of the Mist exactly, but she's clearly some aspect of the town. One of the most fascinating ones to me, which reminds me that I still think I haven't done a video on her, which is shocking. I actually did a little kind of look at Silent Hill symbolism the other day to look at what I'd covered, what I hadn't, wrote it all down, figure out where I'm going to go next. 18 videos have solely been on Silent Hill 2. Which is because it's, well, one, the first 4 games have a lot of fan websites that have a lot of material you can use to make videos, including all the cutscenes. So it's really easy to make videos on those, which is why, in part, I have not done videos as much on Downpour, Homecoming, the other ones. 18 on Silent Hill 2, 13 on Silent Hill 3, something like 15 on Silent Hill 1, and only like 8 on 4, which shocked me because I love it. Then 6 on Downpour, 3 on Homecoming, and then the rest are kind of mixed games, maybe a subject that appears in multiple ones of them or stuff like that. So I definitely need, it's shocking to me that I've done so much on Silent Hill 2 and I've never covered Maria. In part, for a while, it was because I had not played her scenario. So I need to do that. I love that the camera's just aimed at the bookshelves now. And now my phone's ringing. It's over there. I'm not getting it. The fog reflects the memories of the dead, and the darkness reflects the nightmares of the damned. That's poetic. There's a lot of gray area for how much is behind Maria's manifestation, in my opinion. It is, and that's what makes her so fascinating to me, because the question of who and what she is can be answered in so many different ways. And it also implies a lot of possibilities about the town itself, because she's really one of the first and most obvious versions of the town manifesting something specifically to interact with another person, and to do so in a way that's just so interesting, so effed up. Oh man. And especially if you also, depending on how you see her, is Mary a manifestation or not? Or is she a ghost? Or is she, you can also see her in a lot of different interesting ways, depending on if you see her as actually being Mary or as a Mary the town makes, as well as Maria. I will definitely have to dive back in and talk about that. No, you're not wrong, Joe. I actually wrote about it in my book, how there's a lot of Adam, Eve, and Lilith parallels between James, Mary, and Maria. Literal parallels that I think were there on purpose, because Mary, is Mary. Maria very much has a lot of the seductress, the Lilith demoness kind of thing going on. And then James is even a freaking name that appears in the Bible. It's very biblical. But, yeah, I agree, definitely. Lisa was manifested to interact directly with Harry. That is also true. She's different just because it's implied she was a real person at one point. So she's kind of more like Mary, where the question is she a ghost or is she a manifestation? Whereas we know Maria was never an actual person. She didn't exist before all this, which makes her very unique. Is there any explanation why Angela confuses James with her mother when James is in her other world? There's not really. I think in part it could be she is so messed up at that moment and is seeing what she wants to see. I don't think the town would have showed her mother as James to fuck with her. I think she was seeing something and then very quickly realized, oh no, I'm seeing things, because she really was suffering the whole game and falling apart very slowly. And at that point she had really fallen into a terrible rabbit hole. I should do Jacob's Ladder, yes. I've only I had meant to do a series covering more of the influential things on the series, focusing more on them. Like I did one, Crime and Punishment. Turned out pretty okay. I thought it was neat. Never got around to doing them again. And I should do that. Possibly as just special episodes of SHS where I talk specifically about an influential thing. Let's see. Yeah, we're about 30 minutes in. So, let's see. Is Laura part of the town like Maria? I argued that possibility in my video. That's one of my most controversial. People were very for or against the idea. And I'm not the first person who said it. I just made a video about it. I think it's interesting to imagine her that way. But a lot of folks like her more as a real person. And they're not wrong, you know. Multiple interpretations. Do it like you like it. I think it's neat if she's a weird little ghost child. But that's also because I like the dark ending. And it's better to imagine the dark ending where Laura's not real, rather than imagining there's still just an orphan running around an abandoned town with nowhere to go. Though, the idea of Maria still being around and maybe finding her might be nice. Oh, thanks, Bob. You went and found the camera. Bring it back to me, Bob. Yeah, your brother knocked that over. Can you bring it? Anyway. Is it true Maria didn't exist? The bar is there. Maybe she's based on someone. There's a lot of theories about that. And it possibly ties into the idea that the town can't manifest someone without it being inspired, like being able to draw on something. We really don't know enough to say either way, but that theory is possible, and it's been argued before because there's the posters and all that. Whether that's just a throwaway thing that they threw in there, if it's just the name Maria, I think it's possible. We'll never know for sure. I like the idea that she is, in the least, she herself does not know exactly where she came from. She just awoke in the town. She's partly Mary, partly someone else, partly just part of this dark town. And I like the idea that she is this kind of dark creature who's now been awakened as a human and doesn't know what to do with that. Let's see. Well, thank you guys for listening. I gotta run and do a bunch of crap. Next week, we'll have another episode. Monday, well, wait, let me check what day is... Yes, okay, Monday is fine. Making sure there's no holiday. Monday, we'll have another episode. We'll have another follow-up the next day, give people a chance to listen. And eventually I'll also post podcasts and stuff about other games. Won't be in the same podcast listing, but I'll think of a title or something and throw anything that's not Silent Hill related in that one. Just throw it in that category. Silent Hill Symbolism is enough of an established presence that I don't want to mix it in with something else, but other stuff I'll just throw into its own thing, come up with a name for general things. I've even been thinking, I've always really wanted to discuss manga and some things like that, but the idea of editing a video about manga was horrifying because you can't have, it's all still footage. You'd have to edit a lot of still images and scanning them, like, ugh. So the podcast opens up that door where I would not have to deal with that. I would just be able to talk about it. Talk about a lot of different manga that have influential religious and folklore things going on. Oh, and yes, praise the free hug skeleton. I'm working on I may post that later. I'm working on a stream kind of summary of where the free hug skeleton came from. If you don't know what that is, you will find out. Muse ponders. I also thought maybe of like musings, something like that. I don't know. Hey, Persona Symbolism, soon maybe. Well, I actually do have a bunch written down for Persona 5, but now I'm afraid to say anything in case the new content changes my perception of it. Though I guess it's still true of the original game, so who knows, maybe I'll do something. Consider patron bonus rap. Okay. Become a patron, message me and do that, and I will do a rap for you. I don't know why you would want that. Oh man, I could not rap. I can't imagine it. Maybe I could try aping a song that's already written, but I can't imagine writing my own rap. Hello, Kitty. You come back? Here, I hold Kitty. Kitty say, no, do not hold. Do not like this. Every time. Anyway, should we pester some of the... No, don't do that. Don't pester anyone in my name, but especially not voice actors, goodness. I know some folks who might be interested. I've appeared on other people's Silent Hill podcasts. I've talked to other folks that are kind of in the, small group of mildly famous internet people that keep Silent Hill alive. I know 3 or 4 of them. So, in the future, I may see if they want to talk to me about things. That would be fun. But we're going to establish some episodes first. I want to try a month and get 4 or 5 out in a row and see how we build up momentum again, since it's been at least 3 months since we had a steady schedule of these videos. So before I start experimenting, gonna do that. Thanks again for listening. Thanks to all of our members. You guys are amazing and really help to allow me to do this and to upgrade my equipment and keep things rolling like this. Silent Hill 3 book is finally out. Paperbacks are finally on the way. They're supposed to arrive tomorrow, so all pre-orders will soon be in the mail. If you want to order, I did get extras, and you can order for new shipments coming in. There's also ebooks. Check out the links in the description if you're interested in reading any of my research. I have done Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. 4 will come sometime next year. I think that's everything. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you guys sometime tomorrow with the normal schedule. And then we'll go from here with new podcasting. Bye!